be sure to check out Meteoric, the new album by RefleX. Nyu-Media is already back with more shooting goodness on Steam, this time with the second game of the Tale of Alltynex Series, RefleX. Originally making its debut in 2008 by Siter Skain, a three-man Doujin outfit in Japan, RefleX and its sister titles recently made it to Western PCs via a successful Kickstarter campaign.
If you ever wanted to rebel against a global unified army using their own weapons against them, RefleX should be able to scratch that itch. Despite having a simple setup, there's also quite a bit of risk reward that makes RefleX a real fun little blaster. Let's take a closer look.
Taking control of your ship in RefleX, known as the Phoenix Mark II, is easy. Just like most shooting games out there, 8-way control allows you to move your craft all about the screen at a steady pace. There is no variance to its speed. Movement is swift enough to dodge most anything and slow enough that you won't fling yourself into a shot or enemy. Additional functions can be mapped any way you choose as well, so a controller or keyboard setup is available for anyone to use.
Your main weapon is a rapid-fire laser that starts off fully powered and works rather well against most enemies. Meanwhile, you'll do more damage if you reflect your enemy's shots back at them. This is where the shield comes into play. Enabling the shield will allow any blue shot to be deflected back at your opposition. Red shots are nullified while purple shots can be nullified by the shield or destroyed with cannon fire.
It's important to note that you can't fire your cannon while the shield is engaged. That said, while your main shot is pretty useful in taking out most enemies, reflected shots are much more powerful, especially when it comes to homing shots and large lasers. With bosses in particular, knowing how and when to reflect their shots back at them will make for a much easier fight. Reflecting most shots also requires a bit of practice, since the bullets that you fling back will do so at an angle relative to the one they hit your shield at.
Care should be used though, as your weapon's power will decrease according to how much shield power you have. The rate at which your shield replenishes depends on whether or not you're firing. Stop firing and your shields will recharge much faster than if you're frantically spraying laser fire about, which again is decreased greatly when your shields are down.
If you happen to get hit by an errant bullet or collide with an enemy ship, the Phoenix Mark II's durability will decrease by 1. You can get hit a total of 7 times before your fighter eventually bites it. However, your ship will be repaired at certain intervals, allowing for a better chance at a 1cc.
This is always a good thing, as RefleX has a rather lengthy 8 stages with tons of sub-bosses, intense enemy bullet patterns, and no chance to rank in if you end up continuing. At game over though, subsequent attempts will increase the number of credits a player has, which helps in being able to see the end of the game at least.
On the whole, the gameplay is pretty darn slick. A lack of an online leaderboard and 2-player co-op is a bit of a downer, but the bullet reflecting and sometimes crowded play area not only feels pretty good, but cathartic as well. Unlockables also add to the replay value.
RefleX also makes for a decent competition piece, so what about its scoring?
While there isn't much point to the score in RefleX other than seeing how high one can get it, getting that high number can be done with a fairly interesting chain system.
The key to getting the highest scores in RefleX is using the Reflect Shield to hit as many enemies as possible. When a reflected shot destroys an enemy, a multiplier engages and a bar fills up quickly under the score. This bar will deplete quickly so long as nothing else is being destroyed, whether it's by way of your cannon or further reflected shots.
This multiplier can be boosted all the way up to a maximum of 64, but will be halved to a maximum of 32 for cannon kills when the multiplier is engaged. Cannon chains are always half the max multiplier achieved in your current chain. Carefully studying the best groups of enemies to reflect their junk back into helps immensely. Paying close attention through multiple replays is key and adds more replay value to RefleX as a result.
Again, while there are no online leaderboards, the game won't allow you to post your score if you end up continuing, so there's incentive to get good and make it as far as you can, or strive for that 1cc for the biggest bragging rights. Just be sure to grab a screen cap.
Complementing RefleX's solid gameplay is its sweet presentation. Polygons are great and all, but nothing beats big, chunky, detailed pixel art when it comes to shooting games. In this regard, RefleX delivers.
All of the sprites in RefleX have perhaps the best retro aesthetic to them, with well-animated pixel art sprites that are light on rotation for the most part. There's a lot of scaling and even subtle use of polygons every now and again, which makes RefleX seem as if it were a Lost Saturn title akin to Sokyuka Rentai. The Zodiac-inspired bosses are a pretty sweet touch too.
However, big pixels can come at a cost. Some of the backgrounds are a bit too heavy on the chunk, but others are just incredible. Insane amounts of parallax accentuate certain stages, while others have a visual impact that make for seriously memorable locales, especially around the midpoint of the game. More than once, you're guaranteed to say, "What?"
The music, too, is very fitting to the action and locations in which you'll be squaring off against your adversaries. Not only is everything well composed, it really has a very unique flavor. One that stands apart from a great many Doujin games both in terms of quality and emotion.
The great OST is only one aspect of the good sound design of RefleX. The sound effects used are seemingly unique only to RefleX, with perhaps the exception of its sister titles. This is a breath of fresh air compared to many indie titles from many other Doujin studios that use the same sound set in many of their games.
The Steam version's lack of achievements is just a tad confusing, but it's nothing that can't be added later. There are Steam trading cards though, which is always a good thing. RefleX also has an unlockable OST mode as well, which is a nice bonus given its great OST. It all boils down to a great shooting experience that has been a very long time coming. But how does it stack up? Let's take a look.
The Phoenix Mark II's controls in RefleX are sharp.
Whether moving, firing, or engaging your shields, it all feels very quick and precise.
Multiple continues are probably a thing that novices will appreciate thanks to RefleX's high challenge.
The real challenge lies in completing the game with none to get that high score.
With 8 huge stages with multiple sections and bosses, there's a lot to replay here.
Paired with the need for serious practice to get that 1cc, and RefleX's length is supreme.
Awesome pixel art, not to mention some seriously intense backgrounds, make RefleX a seriously good game to look at.
Some backgrounds are a bit on the blurry side of chunky though.
The OST here is well composed and thoughtful to the action on screen.
The sound effects are totally fitting, not to mention fresh compared to its Doujin cousins.
While the idea of a reflective barrier is nothing new, Gigawing did it over 15 years ago after all. The power balance between shields and shots makes the risk-reward more, well, rewarding.
The score chaining is also easy to grasp and tough to master. All in all, great stuff.
RefleX is a pretty great game. Few Doujin shooters out there have this kind of innate quality, and while it does suffer a bit with a lack of online leaderboards, it offers a challenging experience that no PC shmup fan should really be without. RefleX gets a 4 out of 5. RefleX is available now on Steam, Desura, Gamersgate, and Nyu-Media's site for just $7.99. It's also available as part of the Tale of Alltynex collection for $19.99 on Desura, Gamersgate, and the Nyu-Media site alone. For fans in the UK, RefleX is just £4.99 on Rice Digital, or as part of the Alltynex collection for £12.99.